Hey, what's up? Welcome to Offshore Audio. I'm Andrew, I'm a live sound engineer, and this is the channel where I'm bringing you tips and tricks to mix better live events. I thought I would talk today about side fill speakers. Side fills are these things that get kind of like confusing to people for some reason, but they're actually really simple, so we're going to dive into them today. We're going to look at what side fills are and when to use them. We're going to look at hooking them up so you can get them connected real fast, and then we're going to look at what exactly you're sending to your side fill speakers. Like any speaker, you're going to need a bit of EQ to make it suit to the room and the performance and stuff. So for that, I have a gift for you, and that is my 3-step guide to perfect EQ. This is just a PDF guide that you can download and take with you to any show you want, and it shares my 3-step formula for great EQ at every show that I do. You can get hold of that by heading to the description down below underneath the video, or you can go to offshoreaudio.no/EQ to get that free PDF guide. It's just a quick win for you to see how I do EQ, and maybe you can implement it to make your EQ decisions better. But without further ado, let's dive in. So what are side fill speakers? It's actually a bit of contention here. There's a couple of different ways that this terminology is used, right? The first one is as a type of monitor speaker for the artists on the stage. And the second one is as a type of PA speaker, right? So the PA speaker type is used if you have like a large PA, a large system, you need to cover a huge area, and outside of the area of your main PA system, you get outfills, and then if there's even more audience to the sides of there in something like an arena, then those speakers out there are called side fills. Now, the other way that they're used, which in my experience is far more common, is to mean speakers that are placed on the sides of the stage and which play in towards the stage to act as additional monitoring for the artists on the stage. As I said, this is far and away the most common usage of the term that I've come across. Certainly in my life, I've not experienced too many side fills in a large PA setup, but I've come across quite a lot of side fills on stages. So we're going to be talking about the second type, that is side fills as a monitor. And as you might have guessed, they are there to provide monitoring for the artist. That is their purpose, and they're usually there to supplement additional stage monitors, that is wedges on the floor of the stage, or in-ear monitors that the artists have. And so let's talk about when we need to use these side fill speakers, right? And there's a couple of cases where you might consider using them. The first one is when you have a ton of performers. You really got loads and loads of people on the stage. So I'm talking like 100 people on the stage. The other day I had a 100-piece choir on a huge stage, and we needed to use side fills to get sound to all of these people. Because after you end up with 10 plus people on a stage, it starts to get really impractical to try and cover each individual person with a monitor wedge, doesn't it? If you think about monitor wedges, they're very localized, right? One of the benefits of a monitor wedge is that it sort of plays sound in a very narrow pattern. It tries to get the sound just into the ears of the person who it's designed for, so that each person on the stage gets a separate mix in their monitor wedge. So if we have too many people to cover with monitor wedges, we can start using side fills to sort of wash the stage with the sound that people need to hear. Another time that you might need to use side fills is if you have a very wide stage or a very large stage. Again, these floor wedges project sound in a very narrow pattern, and that can be really difficult if you have a large stage and your performers want to move around it a lot. Like a vocalist might want to run about the stage and move all the way from one side of the stage 20 meters to the other side of the stage. Now, if they're on in-ear monitors, maybe that's fine, maybe that works out okay, but not all performers like using in-ear monitors, and they might have a wedge at their main position. But when they move from that position, they need to be able to hear the band, themselves, any backing tracks that they are singing to. So we use side fills to make sure that the band, backing tracks, and the vocals are audible across the whole stage, not just in the localized positions where we have placed floor wedges. So how do we go about connecting them up then? Well, really, it's exactly the same as any other speaker that you're going to use, whether that is PA speaker or monitor speaker. The practicalities do not change. If you have passive speakers that you're using as side fills, then you want to take your mix for the side fills out of your mixer into an amplifier, and then you want to connect that amplifier channel to the speaker that you're using as your side fill. If you're using active speakers as your side fills, then you can just take that XLR straight out of your mixer or your stage box and go straight into that side fill speaker. It's as easy as that. Now, I recommend using a different mix for each side fill speaker because people at different places in the stage might want to hear different things from each other. Think about the guitarist, right? The guitarist is all the way over on stage right, and he or she are playing away, they're riffing out, they've got like huge amplifier, it's blasting. They don't need to hear any more of themselves, most likely. And if your vocalist runs over to that side of the stage, they're hearing plenty of guitar amplifier, and they probably don't need an additional blast of guitar amplifier from that side stage monitor as well, from that side fill. However, if they run over to the other side of the stage, they probably do want to hear that guitarist. That's probably more important to them than the other guitarist who's on that side of the stage also blasting really loud. So you can use that to sort of complement each side of the stage with what they need to hear. Now let's chat a little bit about the placement of these side fill speakers. Where are we going to put them on the stage? And you'll probably be unsurprised to find out that I'm going to say again, it's no different from any other speaker. That means that you need to account for the coverage of the speaker and make sure that the speaker that you use is properly covering the area that you intend to cover. So we've talked in the past about how speakers have different angles of coverage, right? And that changes depending on the orientation of the speaker, whether you've got it in a sort of horizontal or a vertical orientation. And it also depends on the brand of the speaker. Certain speakers are very, very narrow in like their throw, and other speakers are very, very wide. So it's all about choosing the correct speaker for the job. And when you place that speaker, paying attention to the throw of the speaker and ensuring that it is covering the whole stage or the part of the stage that you intend to cover. With this in mind, you might actually need more than one side fill per side of the stage. You might have a very deep stage, could be 10 meters deep, in which case one speaker might not actually cover it. You might need one pair of side fill speakers for the front of the stage and one pair for the rear of the stage. That's fine. You just need to think about the area that you're trying to cover and if you have the appropriate speakers and equipment to cover that area. Another thing to consider is the height of the speaker. If you have really a lot of people, like a 100-piece choir that I just mentioned, then you need to get some height on those speakers and play down into those performers. Because if you are at head height and you're playing right into the people at the edges of the stage, then after you get 3 or 4 rows deep, you're going to lose all that high end and a lot of the energy from that speaker. So just like with a PA system, you're trying to get height and appropriate coverage. You want a kind of line of sight from the person who's hearing it to that speaker cone. You don't want it blocked by other people's heads and bodies because we're just big sacks of water, aren't we? My final tip for placement here is to make sure that the side fills are not playing into the audience area. PA should be set up intentionally to cover the audience area properly, and you don't want to throw that out of whack by having side fill speakers playing into the audience, because that's going to cause all sorts of phase and frequency distortions because the audience are now hearing 2 speakers playing to them that are not intended to play in tandem together. Pay attention to the coverage of that speaker and make sure that you're covering the stage, all of the stage, and nothing but the stage. So let's chat a little bit about what we commonly send into side fill speakers, right? What is it that we send on that mix that goes to the side fill speakers? Again, it depends, because you can't say specifically what it is that an artist needs to hear in their monitor. And these side fill speakers are stage monitors. So we need to be in good communication with the artists about what they need. Now, I'm not saying you can't preempt something. It's quite likely that if you've got a big stage and a vocalist who's going to run across it, you might want to have some vocals in all of the side fills. People might want to hear that. Sound sources that don't have a sort of acoustic element on the stage, we're talking tracks, keys, things that don't have amplifiers making them loud on the stage. These things can be wise to put into the side fills in a certain amount. A keyboard player who doesn't have any sort of amplifier might actually need their keys on their side of the stage. Now, there is another technique that we use when we're mixing side fills, and that's called cross-mixing, right? And this is a strategy where we are adding instruments from one side of the stage into the side fill on the opposite side of the stage. And again, we come back to that guitarist, right? And guitarist's over here playing away. Everyone on this side of the stage doesn't need to hear the guitarist, but on a 20-meter wide stage, the people on this side of the stage probably don't hear that guitarist very well. So it can be wise to send that guitarist in to that side fill. And we might do that for all of the instruments and sound sources on this side, put them out of the speakers the side fill speakers on this side of the stage. And the result of that is that you get a sort of more even balance, a more even wash of sound across the stage. As with any stage monitoring, good communication with the artist is key. Don't go throwing stuff into the side fill speakers without having a conversation about it. Sure, like I said, you might add a little vocal and a little backing track and little keys into the side fills so that everyone's got some of that. But make sure that you tell the artist that you're doing that, or that that is what the starting point is. And if you feel that you need to adjust something on the side fill speakers because you have been on the stage and you have heard what it sounds like, double check with the artist that that is what they need and that is what they want, and that you're not going to ruin some sort of dynamic on the stage for them. Communication is key. Now, just like any other speakers that you rig up on the stage or off of the stage, you're going to need to do a little bit of EQ to prevent sort of feedback, because if there's vocal microphones and speakers playing into them, you want to sort of adjust the EQ of that speaker so that you maximize gain before feedback in theory, right? And to do that, you need to use EQ. And so that's why I recommend that you check out my 3-step guide to perfect EQ. This is applicable not just to channel EQ, but also to front of house EQ and monitor EQ like this. Just a PDF guide that you can get at offshoreaudio.no/EQ or in the link down below this video. So I recommend that you check that one out for this. Of course, when you're hooking up all these side fill speakers, you really need to know the routing on your mixer. So I'll leave a link up here to a video that's really in depth about routing on the X32 and M32 mixers. So at least if you're using one of them, you can get this done in no time at all. But for now, I'm going to say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.